Hey there everyone, today I thought I'd show you how you replace the back on a Minolta Alpha Dynax Maxxum 7 camera. I got this camera and it had the typical aperture issues that these cameras had, so I bought a cheap Maxxum 7 with a broken back and took the good back off of this camera, put it onto the other one. So first off, I apologize for how gross the back of this camera is. This is my parts camera, so I don't worry too much about what it looks like. But it's a somewhat simple fix, and let's get into it. To start, you will need to remove all the screws on the bottom of the camera. For this, all you really need is a small precision screwdriver, and a pair of tweezers will definitely help you out as well. Now, there are a few screws here on the bottom of the camera that are different sizes. I believe it's this one here and this one here. One of them's longer and one of them's shorter. And now you will be able to pop the bottom off of your camera. Now in here you have to be very, very careful because these screws here will just fall out if you flip the camera the wrong way. You might want to put a little piece of tape on them to make sure they stay in place, because you will need to be moving the camera around a little bit throughout this process. There are also two springs here that are for the door latch. To be completely honest, I messed these up when I took this camera apart. Luckily, it's my parts camera, so I don't have too much to worry about. Next step is taking out these two screws on the side of the camera here by the flash switch. And the bottom one of these screws is longer than the top. So, what you will see next is this right here. Now at this point the back can come off. Don't take it off yet because you have let me get the light right here. You have a ribbon cable here that's connecting the back to the camera. So what you're going to want to do next is take out these three screws right here. And you want to be careful in here because you don't want to rip or tear these ribbon cables that will completely brick your camera if you do. Now you can see in here, this is the connector right here for the ribbon cable that goes to the back. So this part is really finicky. You should really probably use plastic tweezers for this, but this is my parts camera. I'm not concerned about this back. So you are going to gently get in here and lift out this ribbon cable. Like I said, be as gentle as you can, because if you rip these, you're shit out of luck. Now, you should be able to, there you go, remove the back from your camera. This is what it looks like. So now, to put the new back on, imagine that this is not the old back, it's a new one. You will simply follow those steps in reverse. It's actually a pretty simple repair, and this tends to be the Achilles heel of a lot of these Maxxum 7 cameras. You see them online for cheap with a broken back. So if you can find a used back that doesn't have the broken latch, I mean, this is a pretty easy repair to do. So to put it back together, you're going to take your back, and now there's a little peg in the back here. This, when you take it apart, it might stay in the body, where right here, or it might come out in the back and stay in here. It doesn't really matter either way. So what you're going to want to do is reseat the back into the body and kind of get it into place. And then you are going to want to take your tweezers, let me see if I can get a little bit of light here, and reseat these two little pieces of the ribbon cable into the little pegs in here. And like I said, these ribbon cables are super duper fragile. You really have to be careful with this. if you rip any of these ribbon cables, that is your camera pretty much tanked. So that one's already in place. And you're going to want to get this section of ribbon cable seated back into its little pegs here. I found that it's easiest to start this from the bottom and kind of work your way up the cable like so. And now they are all back into place. So what you're going to do next, you want to make sure that this ribbon cable sits as tightly as it can, because that's what makes the connection from the back to the camera. And now you are going to take, out of the 3 screws that you took in here, 2 of them are the same size, and one of them is a little different. You'll notice it's smaller and has like a much flatter head than the rest do. That screw goes into the middle of this little assembly here. So you'll just get that screwed in here. And there you go. Next, you are going to take the little plastic piece that goes here and sort of scooch it in there behind the back, and you'll feel it sort of snap into place. The longer of the 2 screws goes on the bottom. You'll get that screwed back in. The shorter of the 2 screws that you took out there goes into the top. And now it is time to put the bottom back on your camera. Now this is a bit of a finicky part. You have to make sure that these 2 springs that I was talking about earlier fit into these 2 little divots here on the base of the camera. Like I said, this is my parts camera. I messed it up the first time I did this repair, so I'm not really worried about it. But definitely be careful of that when you are reassembling your camera. And you're going to want to make sure there's a peg on this side where the back fits into the bottom of the camera. Want to make sure that that's in the right place. Now, I said earlier that these 2 screws were different sizes. It's actually just this one right here. This screw, you will have taken out a very, very long screw compared to the rest. That screw goes in here. And you will just put all the screws back into the camera and you'll be all set. And there you go. You now have the new back on your Minolta Maxxum Alpha Dynax 7 there. And that's all there is to it. It's actually a pretty simple repair. You just have to be really careful when you're in there working with those ribbon cables. They're super fragile. So I hope this helped you get your camera back up and running, and y'all have a good day.